Two carefree children get lost in the woods and find themselves at the mercy of a scary witch in a candy-covered house. Sound familiar? Get ready for Humperdinck's Hansel and Gretel.
When up I spring, the bat takes wing, the hellcat sings, the death bell rings.
Thank you for joining us on Opera Avengers. I'm Alejandra Martinez, your guide to demystifying opera, an art form that was created by the people, for the people, and of the people. As always, this podcast will include spoilers. We believe that going into an opera already knowing the story can enhance your enjoyment. In opera, there are so many aspects and nuances to absorb that knowing the story beforehand allows you to sit back and enjoy the performance without having to worry about missing a subtitle or two. So think of our podcasts as your Cliff Notes and be free to enjoy every minute of high-flying opera. Everyone knows the story of Hansel and Gretel, a German fairy tale first recorded by the Brothers Grimm around 1812. Today, we'll focus on Engelbert Humperdinck's operatic adaptation, now with more fairies, angels, and Christian overtones than you probably remember. Fittingly, this tale of wayward siblings was devised by a brother and sister duo. By the late 1800s, German composer Engelbert Humperdinck had achieved modest success until his sister, Adelheid, approached him with the idea for what would become his best-known work. Adelheid had written Christmas songs for her children based on the Hansel and Gretel fairy tale and asked Humperdinck to write music. Over the next year, they turned this idea into a full-fledged three-act opera first performed in 1893. The curtain rises with Hansel and Gretel at home. Gretel stitches a stocking, and Hansel makes a broom, a product their father sells for a living. While the two work, Hansel complains about how hungry he is, eager for his father to return home with food. Gretel tells him to be quiet and patient, as their dad always says, "When the need is greatest, God the Lord puts out his hand." Gretel tries to cheer Hansel up with a secret. Their neighbor gave them a jug of milk, so tonight their mother can make rice pudding, a rare treat. Hansel can't resist tasting the cream. Gretel scolds him to get back to work, but carefree Hansel would rather dance. Frankly, so would Gretel. So the two abandon their chores to dance. Then Gertrude, their mother, enters. She is furious at her children for goofing off, and she threatens to beat them. In doing so, she shatters the milk jug. Before anyone can lament their spilled milk, Mother comes up with a plan B for dinner: strawberries. Unfortunately, strawberries can only be found in the creepy Ilsenstein forest, so she sends Hansel and Gretel to fetch them. After they leave, Mother prays for help, revealing her sorrow at not being able to feed her children. She sobs herself to sleep. Then we hear a strong, manly voice singing about how hungry he is. "Little mother, here am I, bringing luck and jollity. Oh, for you and me, poor mother, every day is like the other, with a big hole in the purse and one in the stomach even worse. Hunger is the poor man's curse. The hungry beast within my breast called for food, I could not rest. Hunger is an urgent beast, pinches, gnaws, and gives no rest." Hansel and Gretel's father, Peter, arrives home drunk and jolly. He surprises his wife with a veritable feast: meat, vegetables, and half a pound of tea. He explains how he was able to afford this bounty. The village beyond the forest is planning a festival, and in preparation everyone is cleaning, creating a high demand for Father's brooms. But then Father notices the kids are gone. Mother tries to change the subject to the broken jug of milk, but Father demands to know, so she tells him about the forest. This whips Father into a panic. The Ilsenstein forest is home to the evil one, a gobbling ogress who lures children in with candy, turns them into gingerbread, and then eats them. The parents run to the forest to save their kids. In Act 2, the sun begins to set, while Hansel collects strawberries and Gretel makes a crown of flowers. They eat the strawberries as fast as they find them. Again, they're shirking their responsibilities. They realize their mother will be even angrier at this, so they try to find some more strawberries, but the light is fading. Without the sun, it will be nearly impossible to find their way out of the forest. In the darkness, they hear something approaching, rustling the leaves. Hansel asks, "Who's there?" A creepy chorus of echoes replies, "You there, there, you there." Gretel asks if someone's there, and the voices reply, "Where you, there." The children are terrified. Then a little man walks out of the forest. They scream. But it turns out the little man is the good-hearted Sandman. He says he loves the children and has come to tuck them into bed. Not creepy at all. He places grains of sand in their eyes and then walks away. After a brief evening prayer, Hansel and Gretel fall asleep on the forest floor. Then 14 angels appear to watch over the children as they sleep.
When at night I go to sleep, 14 angels watch to keep. To my head are guarding. To my feet are guiding. To on my
As the curtain rises on Act 3, the Ilsenstein forest has brightened with a glorious rising sun. The Dew Fairy awakens Hansel and Gretel with a sprinkling of, well, dew. The children stir, vaguely recalling their angelic protectors. Suddenly, in the new light, they find a strange sight behind them. A house made of gingerbread. The roof is made of Turkish delight, the windows are white with sugar, and the walls are lined with raisins, cookies, licorice, and other sweets. The children ignore the other more ominous features, like a human-sized cage on the left side of the house, ringed by a fence of gingerbread children. No, they're more focused on the smorgasbord in front of them. Unable to resist, they begin pulling cake off the house and stuffing their faces. They hear a voice in the distance.
"Nibbling, nibbling, little mouse, who's nibbling on my little house?"
They dismiss it as the wind and keep eating. The voice returns.
"Nibbling, nibbling, little mouse, who's nibbling on my little house?"
And they ignore it again. Then from the house emerges an ugly old witch who throws a lasso around Hansel's neck. She introduces herself as Rosina Leckersmaul, claiming that her sole reason for existing is to feed children sweets. Hansel and Gretel try to escape, but the witch uses her magic to cast a spell.
Hocus pocus, witch's charm. Move not as you fear my arm. Back or forward do not try. Fixed you are by evil eye. Head on shoulders fixed awry.
Both children are frozen in place.
Hocus pocus, now comes Jocus. Children, watch the magic head. Eyes are staring dull as lead. Now, you atom, off to bed.
She leads Hansel into a cage and then heads inside the house, telling Gretel to stay put. Not that she has much of a choice. Hansel remains frozen, but he manages to tell Gretel to pretend to obey the witch. The witch returns and uses the wand to force Gretel to dance before sending her inside to set the table for dinner. Hansel pretends to be asleep while the witch excitedly gushes over her plans to cook and eat Gretel.
The fool is slumbering, it seems so queer, how youth can sleep and have no fear. Well, sleep away, you simple sheep. Soon you will sleep your long last sleep. But first with Gretel I'll begin. Off you, dear maiden, I will dine. You are so tender, plump, and good, just the thing for witches' food.
The witch wakes Hansel up and demands he show her his finger. He finds a bone at the bottom of the cage and sticks it through the bars instead. The witch feels the bone and complains that Hansel is too thin, so she summons Gretel to bring some raisins and almonds to fatten him up. The witch then attempts to force-feed Hansel, but as she does, Gretel steals the wand and quietly casts a spell. Hocus pocus, elderbush, rigid body loosen, hush! Hansel is now free to move, but he hides this from the witch. The witch then leads Gretel inside the house and sends her to check if the oven is ready. She orders Hansel to get on her tiptoes and lean into the oven, but Gretel pretends she doesn't understand and asks for a demonstration. The witch agrees, leaning into the oven. Hansel then bursts out of the cage. Together he and Gretel shove the witch inside the oven. The witch screams and she is burned alive. The children dance together, stealing fruits and goodies from the house, instead of ducking for cover, as the oven self-destructs. With the witch dead, the gingerbread children return to human form, but they are unable to move. A spell from the magic wand fixes that. Hocus pocus, elderbush, rigid body, loosen, hush! Then Father's booming voice can be heard from the forest, calling for Hansel and Gretel. The frightened parents arrive, better late than never, and hug Hansel and Gretel dearly. The freed children pick through the ruins of the house and open the oven, revealing that the witch has been transformed into gingerbread herself. Father then tells all the children to look at this miracle. He proclaims,
"This is heaven's punishment for all evil deeds. When the need is greatest, God the Lord puts out his hand."
And so the story comes full circle. The children have been saved, and a family has been reunited. Hansel and Gretel would become Humperdinck's most well-known opera, enjoying many performances. In addition to being performed on the radio, live television, and even being adapted into a stop-motion film, perhaps even Humperdinck's grandest legacy with this opera is in his inclusion with the Great Lakes Light Opera's own youth outreach program. We have an entire workshop based on Hansel and Gretel, a great opportunity for kids to explore classical art and music at its finest. To plan your event, visit our website at greatlakeslightopera.com under the Youth Outreach and Education section. Until next month, I'm Alejandro Martinez. Thank you for listening. The Opera Avengers is a production of the Great Lakes Light Opera, an organization based out of Cleveland, Ohio, dedicated to bringing opera and all musical arts to everyone. Want to learn more? visit us at greatlakeslightopera.com. Want to help out? Check our donation page or email us at greatlakeslightopera1@gmail.com. Oh, and let us know what you'd like to hear next.